Welcome aboard, Giants fans, to episode 32 of Talk is Cheap, our New York Giants podcast right here on NJ.com. I'm Joe Giglio, joined every week by our Giants beat reporters Jordan Renan, James Cratch. They're here with me to talk Giants football with you off of what was another Patriots-Giants classic. So we'll break down that game and kind of look forward as this team now hits the bye. Week 11, they will be off. The next time we will see the Giants in the field will be in Washington after Thanksgiving. So, Jordan, we'll start with you here. We're doing this podcast. And how you doing, Jordan? Podcast recording here on a Tuesday morning. So, a couple days after we watched what was really one of the games of the year, Giants, Patriots, and kind of give me your thoughts a couple days after that game with the way it played out and really just the Giants competing with an undefeated Patriot team.
Yeah, what we found out is the Giants really are a competitor now, whether it's for the Super Bowl. I mean, that seems maybe a bit of a stretch at this point. They are 5-5. They're a 500 team, but they're a real contender. I mean, they're a team that you can't look at that's going to go in there against any team, and you could say they're definitely going to lose. I mean, this is a team that has played every single – we talked about this just before we started here. They played every single one of their games close except for that one Eagle game. So 9 out of 10 games has been a close game. They're going to hang around. They're going to be pesky. And they're going to do enough offensive, defensively, and special teams. Maybe not great in any of the three categories by any stretch of the imagination, but they're going to do enough and make enough plays where they're going to be able to give anyone a hard time and put themselves in positions where if they can make enough plays on the stretch, which they haven't in a lot of these key games, but they can win them. So you also look at the missed opportunities, the Landon Collins interception. Probably more than anything sticks out to me. I know a lot's been made of the goal line at the end of the game and the running out the clock. I mean, I have my opinion on that. I think they definitely should have run the ball on first down, forced the Patriots into some kind of decision to do with that timeout, and then you could kind of move from there. It's not necessarily conceding that you can't be aggressive, but to run the ball, to throw the ball on first down and then have it stop at 201, that was the absolute worst case scenario. Joe, we said that. You said that exactly at the time. Second it happened, I said they should have run the ball even before that first down play, and you said, hey, they got it. Stopping at 201. That is the absolute worst case scenario, and it was because the Patriots had just enough time to come down the field and score. So it leaves you with a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth, but as we get a little further away from the game, you realize there's a lot of positives to take, and that's a good thing.
There are. And James, how about for you? When you walked away from that game, I mean, even with the clock management at the end, and we all sat there in the press box just kind of shaking our head at the way, like Jordan described it, played out. They lose the game, but do you walk away more positive off of a 1-point loss to the Patriots or, more negative? Because with the way the NFC's played out on Sunday, with the Eagles losing again, it could have been an opportunity there for the Giants to really finally put some distance between themselves and the Eagles, but they couldn't do that, as far as against the Patriots.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from the game was, if you think about it, the Giants got everything they probably wanted on Sunday. They got the ball off of Brady twice, one interception, one fumble, I think, and they also had the Collins pick and then the fumble that the Patriots recovered. They could have had 4 takeaways. I mean, I don't think anyone thought they were going to have any takeaways going into the game. The offense played well. The special teams, Josh Brown was good. And the punt team was a disaster. But I agree with you. I think that's going to be the theme for these next 6 games once we get back from the bye week is, can the Giants win the NFC? So when I say win, I mean finally take it. It seems like every other week the Giants lose, but yet they stay in first place because the Cowboys and the Eagles also stumble. And at some point, they're going to have to finally take advantage of Philly and not so much Dallas anymore, but maybe Washington stumbling. At some point, they're going to have to make a move and win a game and pull away a little bit because as of now, it's almost like they're just week in and week out, they're just getting handed first place.
Division stinks.
I know the division stinks, but at some point, if the Giants want to say they're the best team in the division, they need to act like it.
They do, and they're going to have to seize it, and they'll get a chance. And we'll get into the game after the bye against the Redskins a little later on and kind of take a look at this NFC East. But, Jordan, let's go into the clock management because that's what a lot of people were talking about off the Patriot game. And if it was just a one-time thing as far as the first 10 games of the year, I don't know if we'd spend a lot of time on it because we'd probably look more at the positives. But this has been a theme for the Giants this year, the way they handle the clock late in games. And it keeps rearing its head because, 4 of their 5 losses are by a total of 9 points. I mean, these games are all going down right to the end when they're losing. So you said, and you said it then, so it's not like a second guess. You said it right there in the press box. They should have run the football. Just kind of take me through what you think they did wrong there in terms of right in front of the 2-minute warning.
Yeah, just that first down play. You got to run the ball. And to make New England make a decision, they want to use that timeout, which Belichick was using those timeouts. They had one timeout left. You kind of want to take that one timeout out of their hands, exhaust that. Then everything is at your disposal. Then you're in control, and you can say, okay, then we can run or pass. And if the pass isn't there right away, Eli can just go down, just like he did on third down. You at least knock that clock off, 35, 40 seconds by the time the ball gets spotted and set. So you run the ball on first down, then you see what the Patriots do. Either they use that timeout at 2:01 or they let it go to the 2-minute warning. If it goes to the 2-minute warning, you get back up there at the line again. You can survey the situation. If you really see an advantage, you can pass the ball. If not, you can run it. I mean, you just got to see. You got to take that. You got to try and see what the Patriots are going to do and how you can exhaust that final timeout and then move forward. Because let's be honest, if the Patriots got the ball back, if the Giants scored, Odell Beckham holds on to the ball, there's 2:01 left. How many of you really have confidence, would have had confidence at that point, with 2:01 left and the timeout, that Tom Brady wasn't going to go down the field, even though the Giants, were up either 5 or 7, they would have gone for the 2-point conversion, right? They were down 1 point at the time. Is that
right?
That's
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
So they would have been up 5 with the touchdown and then gone for 2. So, I mean, there would have been another big play, the 2-point conversion. We have no idea how that would have come out. But up 5 points, up 7 points, Brady with 2:01 left in a timeout, I think you would have still felt pretty confident there that the Patriots were going to go down the field and score whatever they needed to do to either win or tie. So for me, the play was to run the ball on first down, see what the Patriots do, and then sort of move from there.
I agreed. I think we all kind of thought that at the moment. And it would have been different, James, had Odell Beckham made the catch that we all were kind of like, was that a catch? Was it? I think the conversation would have been different than it is now, just because they would have scored, and we probably wouldn't have talked too much about clock management, but they didn't. And then they ultimately have to kick the field goal anyway and just gave Tom Brady so much time and those timeouts there to move down the field. So off of that, guys, I mean, the conversation about them finishing it's been all year long. And is this kind of who they are, James, that they're just going to have these problems all year long? Or do you think finishing is something that they may be able to get better at as the year goes on? I mean, there's 6 games left, 6 big ones. We'll kind of go down the schedule as this podcast goes along. But as far as finishing, do we think they could change the way they are late in games and maybe finish better?
I mean, I think we actually probably had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, probably after the New Orleans game. I just think that the NFL, I memean, as Jordan said, with the exception of the Eagles game, they played every game close. I think in today's NFL, if you're going to play a close game, 50% of the time, you're probably going to come on the wrong side of it. But I think they could finish better. I mean, if Odell Beckham catches the touchdown pass and they get the 2-point conversion, they're up 7. If they run a little, and I don't think that you really can talk about, if they run a couple more seconds off the clock, then Gostkowski never gets in position to kick the field goal, because the Patriots, their play calling, their drive, their strategy is totally predicated on the situation they have. So if they had 57 seconds and 1 timeout in the ball, they would have called plays differently, and who knows if they still would have gotten in position. But to answer your question, I think this is who the Giants are. They talk about finishing a lot, pretty much every other week it seems, and until they actually do it, this is who they are.
Look, how can you be good at finishing when they basically said it? They don't think that they can run the ball. They don't think they can power run the ball. They said the Patriots had an 8-man box. Well, you know what? That's what happens in the red zone. Teams put 8 men in the box, and you have to bring your goal line offense in, and you bring in 7 blockers, and you go and you pound the ball for a couple of yards, 2, 3, 4 yards when you need to get it. But they basically conceded to the fact that they're not even going to try that. They've conceded that that's out of the question. That's not even something that they're going to go and try and do. So it's hard to kill off the end of games when you're not even willing to try and do that.
It is. It's funny. It reminded me a little bit of the Super Bowl last year because why did the Seahawks say they passed on that play that decided the game? Well, because the Patriots brought in their big package on the goal line and they didn't want to run against it. The Patriots dictated what the Giants did there, and ultimately, it worked out for New England. And that's a good point, Jordan. I mean, they don't run the football well. I mean, was it 8 out of 10 games now so far? They haven't been, over 80 yards? I mean, it feels like every game they try. I mean, they make a little bit of an effort early in the game to get a run game going, but it almost never seems to happen. They just don't run the football.
They're not committed, though. I mean, they're not committed to it.
No, they're not.
It disappears. They're just not fully committed to it.
Do you think they should run it more as the game goes on? Because it feels like early in games they try it and then it doesn't work and they just give the ball to Eli.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that's their best way to score points, but there's also the flip side of at times, you're running the ball well, stick with it a little bit more and see what you can do and get some of these guys into a rhythm. But instead, they're just rotating guys in and out. There's no rhythm to it. You never know when they're going to run it. They get away from it. They come out, they start the second half. They always, run the ball a couple times to start the second half, and then whoop, there it goes. It's gone. That's your run for the half.
I think another issue is and I know a lot of people said, why they have these points in the game where they try to go really fast, no huddle. And I've noticed, all right, it's third down. You bring Shane Vereen in, of course. You convert it. Now it's first down. They want to go no huddle, so they're gonna stay on the field with Shane Vereen. And Shane Vereen is just a guy who it doesn't seem like they're really comfortable handing the ball on first down. So now you're not running the ball on first down, and now so now it's 2nd and 10. What are you gonna do? You're gonna pass. So I think it's sometimes I don't really understand why they'll hit a big play and they'll be so insistent on rushing right to the line and getting the first down snap off. It just seems to me that sometimes they could maybe take a little time and but they want to go fast, and I think that also is hurting the run game.
That's a good point. I mean, the pace might be not helping the way they run the football as well, and the run game is probably going to be an issue all year. We know Eli's had a good season, and we did have some news this week. We're doing this podcast on a Tuesday after the New England game. And so Monday, right after the Giants lose to the Patriots, Victor Cruz announces it himself on Bleacher Report. They're one of the videos they put up there, uninterrupted. Victor Cruz announces he is going to undergo calf surgery. So all that hope, all those questions are out the window. And then Tuesday morning, right before we record this episode of Talk is Cheap, the Giants bring back an old friend in Hakeem Nicks. Jordan, your take on the way the news broke with these wide receivers. I mean, I guess the Cruz thing isn't too much of a shock because it felt like every single time he was getting close or we thought he was, there was just another setback.
The thing with Nicks, Cruz is you thought he was going to come back because they kept him on the active roster for 10 weeks. So when you keep a guy on the active roster for 10 weeks, you certainly think he's going to come back. And it kept thinking he's coming back. It just never materialized. So I think it actually was sort of surprising. He went out there Saturday, it didn't feel good again. And the decision was made, we got to do something here. And then means surgery's coming. And, Cruz delivered that news himself. Now the Giants are moving forward, and you got to wonder what his future is with the Giants. It's certainly not coming back with a 9-point-something million salary cap number next year for a guy who hasn't played in 2 years. I mean, that's unrealistic. So the reality is his future with the Giants is seriously in doubt. And when you come and talk about Hakeem Nicks right now, you wonder, well, what does he have left? I mean, I know his age, whatever his age is, but this is a guy who, played with Andrew Luck last year, couldn't even start on that team, and caught, 30-something passes, was cut by the Titans, has been on the tryout tour all year. Nobody wanted him. What can Hakeem Nicks give you? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think in name, Giants fans will probably be excited because we remember what he did in a Giant uniform. But James, it's kind of ironic because if we had a conversation, 4 years ago, the year Victor Cruz burst on the scene, Hakeem Nicks was the Giants' number one wide receiver then. I think if we had this podcast then, I would have probably said, Nicks is the guy they're going to build this wide receiving core around. And, we'll see about this Victor Cruz guy. And I just find it's kind of ironic that Nicks is now, not that he's coming back to replace Victor Cruz, but just the way the transactions played out. He's back as Cruz is out for, officially.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Victor, it's an unfortunate thing. You know, I don't know if I want to say a surprise, but they were practicing. The portion of practice open to the media. I think on either Wednesday or Thursday. In the indoor facility, he was sprinting like straight ahead, mind you, but he looked to be like he was sprinting 100% full speed. And there just seemed to be optimism that he was finally going to come back, and that we were finally pushing toward like week 12 in Washington. But it just sounds like he was running routes, not even running routes at full speed, and the calf caught again. So, as Jordan said, when the guy's on the active roster for almost 3 months, you expect that he's coming back, but it just never worked out. And then for Knicks, I mean, I think it's kind of a low pressure situation. I mean, it's just see what you can get. I mean, the Giants have basically played with 4 or 5 wide receivers on the roster all year long. Now they're adding Knicks in the 6th. So whatever they get out of him, I guess is gravy.
Right. I think
the thing with Cruz that does make you scratch your head a little bit is the fact that you're not supposed to really have surgery for calf strains or calf tears. These are things that are supposed to heal on their own, and for it to stretch 11 weeks now and then all of a sudden have surgery, it really makes you scratch your head a little bit. Second time the Giants have lost a guy to a calf injury for the season. It's not supposed to be a season-ending injury.
Yeah, and Jerry Reese said that. I mean, he kind of alluded to what you did there, Jordan, that it's a head scratcher. I think Reese called it the year of the calf, and just kind of the whole thing seemed puzzling. Now, there has been a lot of, I'd say, conversation with Giants fans on social media. A lot of people seemingly are upset with Cruz, not because he's hurt, because he's, what are you going to do? But because it seems like Cruz is very visible away from the football field during his injury, all the stuff he does. You guys are around that team all the time. You've seen him, Jordan, when he's been healthy in the past. I mean, do you think that stuff do you understand that stuff, or do you think he's just a hard worker and he's obviously a really good football player that's going through a tough time now? But I'm sure you see that stuff too. I'm sure people tweet at you. I mean, Cruz he's done his fashion shoots and he's doing all this stuff, but he's not on the football field. That bothers some people, even though, I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, I asked him flat out when he did the documentary, and I said, people, exactly what you're talking about, are criticized. And he's saying, look, we have lives, we have interests off the field. We're not just going to sit there and hole ourselves in football 24 hours a day. It's just unrealistic, especially in the off season. I mean, he works. I mean, this is a guy who's worked. Look, he didn't get to where he was by accident. I mean, this was an undrafted guy, so to think that he's not working hard, I think, is a little off base. And sure, you don't want it. Maybe you don't want to see it or flaunt it as much in your face as it gets. But I mean, these guys have 24 hours in a day. He's not going to go work out his calf for 20 hours a day. I mean, that would be counterproductive. So, he was in there. He's been working hard, and it just his body is not cooperating. And this is what happens in the NFL. These guys, their bodies are well-oiled machines, and once one part is broken, the other parts start mechanically breaking down. And, he admitted overcompensation was the reason for the calf injury, or that's what he thought, or that's what they thought, the medical people. And, that the knee is connected to the thigh, which is connected to the leg, it's just connected to the calf, to the ankle. So now, it's going to be a story of, all right, even if he comes back now, is his body ever going to be the same? Is it ever going to cooperate? Or is it just going to be one thing after another? And you saw it with the team Knicks also. I mean, it was he had some injuries, foot, ankle, and it sort of, mushrooms, and then you're basically sapped of the player you once were.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know like what fans want. Do they want him just to sit in the hyperbaric chamber all day and wrapped in bubble wrap? I mean, it's just, he as Jordan said, he's got off the field activities. He has interests, and believe me, the guy was working hard. And I think when he would talk to us in the locker room, when he saw the video, I think this was something that really hit him hard. This whole ordeal, and it's unfortunate, but this is what it is in the NFL. If your body's just a little bit out of calibration, you really just can't play.
There was a scene in the documentary where he sort of admits that, he's thought about being cut. And, it's the same thing with Will Beatty also. Like, people think that he doesn't want to play also. I mean, Will Beatty understands the reality of the situation. He's also likely to get cut or take a massive pay cut and has no chance of making $8.5 million somewhere else. So these guys understand this idea that, they just don't want to play or don't want to try is just seems foolish to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you guys. And I mean, especially this guy, Victor Cruz wasn't a first-round pick who, got a bunch of guaranteed money up front and then didn't work hard. I mean, this is an undrafted player, had to scrap and claw to get to the spot he got. And then obviously he became a very valuable piece for the Giants. But I agree with you. And, we'll see. The future for Victor Cruz, like you said, Jordan, is very much up in the air. All right, so the Giants are at 5-5 through 10 weeks. And now comes the bye. They'll be off for Week 11. They'll come back, and their next game will be Week 12 in Washington against the Redskins. We'll start there and then kind of go win-loss throughout the last 6 games. We'll each go around and kind of project what we think is going to happen here through the rest of this season, which is very much, attainable for them to win the NFC. They're in first place right now. The bye comes after, 14 straight weeks of football if you go back to the preseason. So they need it right now. James, we'll start with you because you had a piece. You and I talked about this in the press box before the Giants-Patriots game, and then I saw you had a piece on Monday about that Redskins game coming right out of the bye in Washington, and really not only for the Giants but also now for the Redskins, how big that game has become. The Redskins are in this thing.
Yeah, they're in it. This is the way I look at it. Obviously, the Redskins have to play the undefeated Carolina Panthers in Charlotte this weekend. They will be underdogs, of course, but the Eagles are going to play 2 games before the Giants get back on the field because they're going to play the Lions on Thanksgiving and they'll play the Bucs this coming Sunday. So the way I look at it is if the Eagles split these next 2 games, and honestly, what we've seen all year from the Eagles, I don't think you really can say with certainty that they're going to sweep these next 2 games. Then no matter what the Redskins do this Sunday against the Panthers, that game's for first place in the NFC East. You can have 5-5 against 4-6, or potentially 5-5 against 5-5. So, it's a big game for both teams. And you look at the Redskins' remaining schedule after that, they've got the Cowboys twice, which would be tough. They've also got the Bears, which is looking a lot tougher than it looked a couple weeks ago. They got the Bills, they got the Eagles. So, I'm not saying the Redskins are in the driver's seat by any stretch of the imagination, but they're in this race. So the Cowboys kind of went out the back door with their 7th straight loss the other day, and now the Redskins have kind of filled in their spot in this 3-horse race.
They have, and now, they're playing better than we thought. I think any of us probably predicted before the season with the Redskins. Cousins is doing a pretty decent job at quarterback for them, and they put a bunch of points and got Rob Ryan fired against the Saints. Jordan, the one thing that is obvious, and we talked about this after their game earlier in the season, is the Giants recently, in the last few years at least, have played very well against the Redskins, and they embarrassed them a lot down there in Washington. Any feeling or any sense that like that kind of thing when you play a division team and you beat them up for a while, it has to come to an end at some point here? Or do you just think the Giants have the Redskins number?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they totally dominate them. Kirk Cousins, they faced a couple times, and they've completely gotten the best of them every time. And it's just one of those things where maybe the matchup's good. Maybe the Giants offense works well against the Redskins defense. So I think it's something that we could probably count on to factor into the equation at least a little bit when they play next time.
So what are we feeling about this game? I mean, let's go through the schedule now. There's 6 games left. The Giants at 5-5. It's anybody's guess what it's going to take to win this NFC, so whether it be 8 or 9 wins. 6 games to go. We'll go in order. Let's start with the Redskins game because we just touched on that, and that's coming up first. James, we'll start with you. Giants, Redskins, when you kind of look into your crystal ball for the rest of the season, where do you see this first one going for this Giants team?
I think the Giants win a absolute slugfest, low scoring. I'm thinking something like 16-14. I think it's going to be a really interesting game, see how the Giants coming off a bye week handle going into, what it's probably going to be a pretty good atmosphere on the road against a team that, obviously is desperate to finally beat them. I think it's going to be right down to the end, but what we talked about earlier, I'll say the Giants finish this game and win.
So they finish. So they get a victory in Washington. I think they win the game too, but I'm with you, James. I mean, I don't see it being as easy as it's been recently against the Redskins. Jordan, how about you?
I'm going to go Giants victory. Also, like James said, close game, fairly low scoring, 23-21 or something of the sort. Let me put an asterisk there, subject to change. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really. We got a couple weeks before we know. Let's see. Make sure that Pugh and Western Richburg are playing, and Princeton Mukamara is playing. Obviously, those factor into the situation.
Right, like James said, off the bye, the Giants, that's a good spot to come off and maybe be a little healthier. All right, 5 games after the Redskins game. Let's go win-loss, win-loss. Let's go through it. James, we'll start with you. Jets, just go win or loss.
Win.
Jordan.
I'm going to go the loss. I mean, I just think that the Jets are a pretty good team. They'll give them problems. It'll be a close game, but I'm going to give that one to the Jets. I think they're a little bit better. I'll go with the win for the Giants in that game. It's a Giants home game, but obviously it's a home game for both. All right, then at the Dolphins on Monday night. James?
This is a really, really, really tricky one, but I'm going to say win.
I'm going to say Jordan. Win too. I'm going to say win too. That Dolphins team is going to head and spiral in the wrong direction. I know they won this week, but that's not a good-looking team.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you watch the beginning of that game against the Eagles. They're just not a good team. The Eagles gave them a game, and there's a lot of holes on that football team. I think the Giants will be able to. Holes. Yeah, they'll be able to exploit that. All right, then back after the Dolphins
Monday
game.
Monday nighter, by the way.
Right, it's a Monday night in Miami. So that means, like you just said, Jordan, that's a short week coming back at home the next week, week 15, against the Panthers. We'll, who knows what their record's going to be at that point, but it'll obviously be very good. James, Panthers at home, week 15.
I'm going to sound like a Mr. Optimism here. I'm going to say win.
You've got 4 wins in a row.
I listen, that sounds like a scary thought to me, and it probably is destined to be horribly wrong. But before the season started, when we did our preseason predictions, I said that the Giants' inexplicable win no one saw coming would be the Panthers. And I don't know. I just think that Carolina's a really, really good team, but they're not the type of team that is going to scare you in the way that a team like the Patriots would. Obviously, we saw what the Giants were able to do with the Patriots. So, yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to give them their 4th straight win.
Wow,
Jordan?
James, that seems a little homerish to me. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually going to go with the win also for some reason. Like, I think that's a team that they could match up pretty well with. Because as long as I don't think Carolina's the team that's going to go out and really dominate you offensively. So if the Giants could put up some points against them, I think that's a game that they can win. I mean, Cam Newton, they could force turnovers. It's a team they could force turnovers against. I like that matchup at home. I think that's a chance for the Giants to steal a win. I'm also not sold on the Panthers being a dominant team.
Yeah, I'm not either. I don't know if anybody is sold on the Panthers, but they keep winning every single week. I'll give the Giants a loss in that solely because it's hard for me to picture this team winning 4 games in a row, but who knows? So I have a loss in that. James has a win. Jordan, you have a win. So in week 16 in Minnesota against a Vikings team that might be the most under the radar, good team in the NFL. They're in first place as of recording this podcast in the NFC North. James, at Minnesota, week 16.
Loss. This game could be really, really, really tough for them. I think it's Minnesota. It's probably going to be like 2 degrees. Teddy Bridgewater's playing great. Adrian Peterson is Adrian Peterson. The defense is really good. The defense is also pretty opportunistic. So I could see this being one of those games where the Giants go out there and just get their tails whipped. But it's just one of those things where they just have to move past it quickly and focus to the finale against the Eagles next week.
Sign me up for an L as well. I mean, I don't see that as being a game right now that they're going to win. The Vikings are a good team. They're playing actually really well right now. So they'll run the ball. They'll play good defense, get enough from Teddy Bridgewater. Giants, the Giants are a passing team. It's going to be hard for them late in this season to be out there slinging the ball around. They're going to have to start running the ball a little better to win some of these tough games.
I have a loss too. So that puts Jordan, you and I have the Giants at 8-7. I have them with 2 losses leading them into the last game of the season. James, you have them at 9-6 based on this little exercise. Heading into week 17, one way or the other, like we've been talking about for weeks, that game, week 17 against Philadelphia, probably decides the division. If the Eagles come in with 8 wins, James, that'll be for the division. If they come in with 8 or 7, I guess, for Jordan and I, it's for the division. James, we'll start with you. Week 17, right now, as you can look into your crystal ball, win or loss?
I will say win.
So they get over the Eagles hump, huh?
They get over the Eagles hump. Look, I just don't think that – I know what happened in Philly was a disaster, but, you're at home, and I can't see the Giants' offense rolling into a ball like they did against Philly on Monday night a couple weeks ago. That was by far the most listless performance they've had all year. Just Sam Bradford and Mark Sanchez really just do not inspire a lot of confidence in a win-or-go-home situation. So I will say that the Giants win, and they win the NFC East at 10-6, which seems a little bit far-fetched, but, hey, that's what I think the biggest thing is the Jets. I think a couple weeks ago we said the Jets would be a really tough game. They can't win. But the Jets' issues at quarterback and the fact that they've been kind of vulnerable the past couple of weeks, to me, opens the door for the Giants. That's the swing game, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a win in this spot, too, against the Eagles. And look, if you asked me this last week, I would have probably said loss, but I just don't have – what I've seen from the Eagles just doesn't inspire confidence. If they even get their act together a little bit, I think they do have the Giants' number, and they're probably roster-wise a better all-around team. But it's up to that quarterback, and until they get better quarterback play, I just can't go with the Eagles. They were horrible last past week. I mean, it was bad. Everything that they could possibly do to lose that game, to blow that game, to not put that game away early. I mean, I'm just not feeling confident right now that the Eagles are a team that's going to be able to make the playoffs or win big games with the way the play they're getting from their quarterback and their offense in general. So the Giants, whatever you might say about them, their talent on defense, definitely something. There's definitely something to be desired there. I think everyone will kind of agree with that, but they have shown some signs of being better in the pass rush these last couple of weeks. I find that that's a great sign of optimism for me. The fact that this team might actually be able to pressure the quarterback better than they did in the first 9 games of the season when they were absolutely invisible. So the offense will be able to score enough points to keep them in every game. Almost every one of these games we just named is probably going to be close. Like it has been the first 10 weeks of the season. Maybe one game won't be close, but it'll come down to whether the Giants can fix some of the woes that they've had in the past, and I think they will be a little bit, just enough to get to 9-7 and get into the playoffs.
It's interesting, James, a few minutes ago, off of what Jordan was saying with the Eagles and the issues they've had. We all have the Giants here winning at least 2 out of the next 3 with the Redskins, Jets, and Dolphins. James, you two both have them. James, you and I have them winning 3 in a row. Jordan has them winning 2. But the reason I bring that up is because the Eagles here, James, a few minutes ago you had said with the issues they have, maybe Mark Sanchez playing for a couple weeks, probably the best you could kind of project the Eagles the next 2 weeks is 1-1. Then they go to New England. So if you play that out and you say they're going to lose in New England, the Eagles would have to win out to take the division from the Giants if we think the Giants are going to be around 8-7 or 9-6 going into that last game of the season. So what I'm trying to get
confidence in that now?
No,
you have confidence
so I'm trying
the Eagles
to get
can run that kind of streak?
No, so this feels like it's going to set up, if the Giants could play well out of the bye for a couple weeks, that they'll control their own destiny. I mean, it'll be on them to just beat the Eagles, and they're going to be in.
Well, the one thing I will say is that if you look at the Eagles' final 4 games, they played 3 in a row at home, but they're not exactly tough, easy games. You got the Bills at home. Okay, maybe they win that game, the LaShawn McCoy Bowl. Then they have the Cardinals at home on December 20th, and that to me seems like one of those, the Cardinals need to go win in a cold weather city and win emphatically to, lock down their Super Bowl bona fides. And then they have the Redskins at home the day after Christmas, which I believe is a Saturday night game. So, could the Eagles go 3-0 in those 3 games for the Giants game? Sure. But it's really going to be hard, especially with the Cardinals, who I think right now might be the NFC favorite on paper.
Flip side, Giants have Carolina, Minnesota, and the Eagles to finish their season. Not an easy 3-game stretch there.
No, that is true.
You know what? Here's my thing with the Giants. I know you guys have 3 straight wins at some point. I just don't see this team being consistent enough or being strong enough in a lot of areas for them to run off that. I mean, their margin for error is too slim in my estimation that they're able to run off a big streak as well.
That's kind of been them the whole year, and that's why, however the math's going to play out, it feels like we're heading towards that Week 17 game with the Eagles and the Giants for the division, for the NFC. All right, so as we wrap this up, and this will be our last one until after the Redskins game, so we'll be back for our next episode after that game against Washington post-Thanksgiving. Each of you, and I'll give one too, let's give our keys to, not the second half, but the post-bye for the Giants. James, in your mind,
the stretch run.
I like that. The stretch run, exactly. So what's the key to the stretch run, James, for the Giants to win the NFC East?
They have to keep getting this pass rush. It has to keep growing and evolving over the next 6 weeks. They're close. They had their best performance on Saturday against the Patriots, but granted, look, Patriots were a mess on the offensive line. As JPP gets more comfortable, I think, and more in a groove, the rest of the team has to follow him. They have to get after the quarterback to have a chance to win this division. And I also think that, as we talked about earlier, the running game has got to at least be more consistent in crunch time when they need it, as they try to finish these games.
James, when you take 2, that means you usually take someone else's answer. You know that, right? So I was going to go. I mean, first, I'll take 2 also, since James did it. Yeah. But so I'll start with, if they don't create these turnovers, this team is nowhere. They wouldn't compete in a lot of these games. So the turnovers is obviously, they need to keep creating. If they have games where they don't create turnovers, it's going to be hard for them to win any of those. But I'm going to go number one. My number one thing is they're going to have to run the ball better. Final 6 games here, all outdoors. 5 of the 6 in potentially cold weather games. So you're not going to be able to sling the ball around as much. You're not going to be able to throw it around the yard. MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, often windy late in the season. So if they're not going to be able to run the ball better, they're going to have trouble here in these final 6 games, especially against teams like Carolina, the Eagles, even the Dolphins isn't in warm weather, but the Redskins, teams that all run the ball significantly better than them and are more power-ish kind of teams. So that power teams, the power strategy sort of sometimes plays better in these cold weather climates and when it's possibly windy. So even the Jets, all these teams, more power running games. And if it comes down to it, the weather might lend itself to that being the better strategy. And the Giants could be in trouble because does anybody have confidence that they're going to be able to pound the ball down the Jets' throats if it's a windy or cold day? Or even the Redskins, or even the Panthers. So, yeah, they could be in trouble in some of those games if they can't run the ball better.
Really good points. I guess for mine, I would go number 1 would be getting Prince Amukamara back and getting him healthy. Now, I did hear him say he hopes to be back and thinks he'll be out there for the Redskins game. I think it has a ripple effect on the whole defense, putting him back out there on the other side of DRC. So that's number 1. And the other one, maybe it's Dwayne Harris. Who knows? Maybe it's Akeem Nicks, but someone else, to me, every week has to keep making plays besides Odell Beckham, because defenses are going to do everything they can to limit whatever he does. The Patriots did a good job after the big play early in that game. Reuben Randall should be that guy, but we never know what you're going to get out of him. So it's getting something out of someone else to make some plays late in these games. And, otherwise it all falls to Beckham, and that's a difficult task for them to have to go to him every single play.
Joe, before we leave, you brought up Prince. I want to put out a public apology to J. Ron Hosley for calling him not an NFL player for quite a while. He actually played really well on Sunday against the Patriots, with the exception of that one deep pass where his coverage actually wasn't bad, though he just didn't make a good play on the ball. But in general, he held up really well and, played way better than I thought he ever would.
Yeah, he did a good. You're right. He did a good job, and he made some good tackles out there. He had a decent game, all things considered, against Tom Brady. All right, so
sometimes you got to take it on the chin, Joe. Sometimes you just got to take it as you were wrong, and I'm taking that one for J. Ron Hosley here.
We're not afraid here on Talk is Cheap to say when we were wrong, and
no,
it happens.
No, we're not.
It happens probably more than we'd like.
It does, and I'm sure I'm going to save my show sheet for this episode. I'm going to look back at our win-loss for each of these games when this season does end. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, there's no way we're good. No way it's going to be pretty.
No way.
We'll all be sitting here talking about a 5-11 finish at some point. So.
Well, let's hope not, because that'd be a boring end of the season. But I think they'll be in it. I think we all do, and it's going to be fun down the stretch.
Would be Credit Combo.
Yes.
Definitely. All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there listening. Enjoy the holiday. We'll be back for our next episode after the game against the Redskins, which, James, like we talked about here, it's going to be a big one in the NFC. So this has been episode 32 of Talk is Cheap, and thanks to all of you for listening to Talk is Cheap, our New York Giants podcast right here on NJ.com. Follow the show at Jordan Raanan, at James Cratch, at Joe Giglio Sports. Find us on iTunes and on Stitcher, and leave us a rating there. It helps the show grow, and we'll do even more of these as time goes along. This has been episode 32 of Talk is Cheap on NJ.com.